how's it going? In this video, I'm rebuilding the differential for the Mustang. Some of my footage was corrupted. Don't know how to get it back. I'm learning all this stuff as I go. Comments on anything can be helpful. Let's just try to keep out the lewd comments. We don't need any negativity. I'm just a dumb hillbilly. I've never had any schooling for any of this, any automotive or anything. Everything I've done has been hands-on, but yeah, I've learned from older guys that have taught me things over the years here and there. But yeah, on to the video. Me and the son at the Buddies You Pull It. Lots and lots of stuff around. We're coming for Mustang parts and he's looking for stuff. But yeah, we're gonna see if we can find some parts here and bring you back and show you if you've got any goodies or not. Well, we found us a donor car. Isaiah's gonna start pulling the rear end out of it. I'm gonna pull the PCM harness out of it. We'll get the robbing stuff off of it. We'll bring you back in a little bit. Well, we got us a load of stuff here. A wiring harness, some ground effects, differential. Got a glass laying over there I'm gonna pick up on the way out. We're gonna try to get all of this back up to the front. That's a ways up through there. It's gonna be a haul with this thing, but we'll get it done. Hey, how's it going? We're back out here in the shop again. We got this old Marauder back in here. It was the donor for the engine for this Mustang. If you haven't seen all that yet. Pulled the rear end out of it. We're gonna sell the rest of this thing, scrap or what. Yeah, I wanted the rear end out of it because it's got the bigger flange on the diff. I think it's got an aftermarket Positrack in it. I'm not for sure, but it's got different gears. I'm probably gonna want those. I'm gonna put it all into this housing. Now we're going to get this bearing off here so we can get new one put on it. I don't have pullers or anything that pull these things off, so I just cut them. I'll show you. Keep rags wrapped around it to keep as much of the stuff out of the Positrack that I can. Get that cage split. Get it out of the way. And I come in here and cut this at an angle. Get as far through it as I can without cutting into it. If you nick it a little bit, I can't get back in here real good, so I'll cut a little different angle right there. I think I've got it cut far enough. I'll just take a hammer and a big chisel, lay in there, and get that race to crack. It'll split. You might want safety glasses for this. I don't ever use any of them. They just hinder me. But it'll crack just like that. And it'll come right off there. Just like that. And we'll get it cleaned up and get ready to put the new bearings on. Okay, I've got the bearings on the third member. These are the pinion bearings. They're the old ones. They're not bad. I'm going to replace them anyway. But what I like to do is take them and make them where they're setup bearings. I take one of these cartridge rolls like this on a die grinder. You go around the inside of it. You just open that thing up. It don't take a lot, but it sure makes life a lot easier. You make it where that bearing will just slide on and off of there. Both of them. Like that. That way when you're setting it up, if you need to change that shim that goes right there, you don't have to risk damaging a new bearing and stuff pulling that off. You can put that in there, and if you need to change that shim, just flip that bearing off. I take the old nut and I cut the end of it off. That way it's not a lock nut anymore. You're gonna put a new nut on anyway. You should. But that way that thing will just screw on there with your fingers. You can use all that stuff to set it up. Once you've got your setup right, you got all your shims figured out and stuff, you just put your new bearing on there. It's a press fit. Then you reassemble it. Now I've got that pinion in there. That's just hand tight on the nut. You want it snug where it don't just spin like crazy, because that's not going to get you a good accurate reading. See, you don't want it where it'll do that. You're going to tighten that thing down where it's got some tension on it, because you're going to need a little preload on the new bearings anyway. There's measurements on how much force it takes to turn that. I don't have any of the stuff to do that. I've always just done it by hand. I don't have any of the proper tools really. They make a deal that sits in here so you can measure the depth of your pinion. There's numbers on the pinion, what you're supposed to set that at. I just like to make them setup bearings. When I get done with them, I'll wrap them up and mark them what they fit. That way if I need them in the future, I'll have them. I have them for 10 bolt Chevrolet and 12 bolt Chevrolet because I've built a lot of those. I've not done one of these 8.8s yet, but we're doing it now. So I went ahead and made those setup bearings, and we'll get this thing set up and show you how that goes. When I'm doing one of these, I like to start out with the factory shims that go in here. That's usually a good starting point. A lot of times it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'll try to put it in with them in there and see how that works. You get your fingers hung in here, you're gonna need some super glue and band-aids. So you gotta just kind of be careful about it. Try to get that stuff in there like it goes. I've never built one on a stand like this. I've always done it with the differential in the vehicle. I think this actually might be a little bit more difficult because then I'm fighting the weight of it instead of it trying to just roll in there. Okay, This one is just a little thick. It's a little too tight to get in there. So we're going to take one of these aftermarket shim packs. See this groove here? That's supposed to interlock into that. We're going to add probably 30 thousandths to that thing. We'll get it up here where it's 50 thousandths thick, or 150. Whatever it is, we're going to make it to about there. So you just separate that thing like that. They come with these other shims that go in here. We're going to pull these two thickest ones first. See where that puts us. Nope, that's way over. Pull one of them out. That puts us right about where we want to be. We'll try that and see where it's at. Okay, we've got this thing in here. We've got shim packs on both sides. Them factory shims just wasn't going to work. This is a tool that you do need to have. Dial indicator. You can see we've got about 15 thousandths of backlash. What we're shooting for is about 9. I checked this in the old differential before I took it out. What we're going to do is we're going to take and move a little bit of shim from this side to this other side to scoot this whole thing over just a little bit. I think I'm going to move probably 10 thousandths or so over there. We'll get some of it moved and we'll see where we're at. Okay, we have landed on 9 thousandths backlash. I'm going to call that good. I'm going to check the pattern on it, see if it's good. I'll show you that. Okay, our backlash is good, but if you can see that our pattern is not good. On our drive side, we're down in the toe. The coast side is not too bad. It's up in the middle. So we're going to pull this back apart. We're going to change the shim under the pinion. That's where these setup bearings come in very handy. I can just pull it all back apart by hand, change that out real quick, go back and check it again. We'll get that changed out, tell you what we did, and we'll show it to you when we're done. Okay, I think we've got this thing close enough. That's the drive side pattern there. That's the coast side pattern there. I ended up taking another 10 thousandths out. I think I started with 30 thousandths, or a 30 thousandths shim on the pinion. I've ended up with 15 thousandths, so I guess I took 15 thousandths out. I'm back to 9 thousandths backlash, as you can see there. Ended up back with the factory shims in here, which is just fine with me. I prefer them big single thick cast iron ones. I've never had a problem with the shim packs, but It's just easier to put in with those. Now we're going to pull this thing back apart. We're going to put in the new bearings, races, all that stuff in the pinion, and we'll show you how to set that up. Okay, we're ready for final assembly. Got the new bearing on the pinion, got the new races in the housing. This is when you're going to put your new crush sleeve on. It goes there. This is not a shim, this is an oil slinger. It goes on top of this bearing. It keeps a lot of the oil off the seal. Helps keep them from leaking. I don't know how well it works. They put it in from the factory, so I'm going to put it back in. What I generally do is that bearing, that nose bearing, is hard to get down on that pinion. So I'll take and just tap that thing on there like that till it'll hold that pinion in there. Then you can put in your new seal. After you put your oil slinger in, that'll go in there like that. Then you can use that setup nut to pull it all together. I always put a little bit of sealant in the splines because they will leak grease through the splines. It don't take much, just a little bit for each spline. About like that. Drop that in there. Put on that setup nut that you made. See, we're still not tight. I'm going to pull that setup nut back off of there. And this is when you go back together with your new nut. It's got that thread locker in it. We're still not tight. We're getting close. Still not quite there. We got a little bit of play left in it. Now we're kind of snug. You don't want it to spin real freely. You've got a seal and everything in there. I'm gonna put just a little bit of oil down in there. Let it get down in with them bearings. I'm gonna tighten it a little more. You want some preload on those bearings. You don't want them too tight, but you don't want them too loose. I think we can go just a little bit more. And that feels pretty good. Go a little bit more. Okay, we got the differential put back together. Except for we've got one axle in it. Parts store gave me the wrong seals. They had one in stock, so I'm waiting on the other one. So while I'm waiting, I'm gonna install these polyurethane bushings. If you look right here, it says to use the existing outer shell. That's this piece right here. So you have to get all the rubber out of it and that metal sleeve that's in it. It's not easy. It's not super difficult. I'll set you up on time lapse and I'll show you how I done it. I already did the other one. Got it swapped out. But yeah, we'll set you up on time lapse and show you how that goes. And you can put you a C-clamp on it, big washer. It don't go in hard. It goes in fairly easy. Just push it in like that. I'm gonna have to reset. Okay, just a little piece of scrap steel here. That's the bearing race. I cut off the third member. Big washer. I think that'll push it in. I just needed a little bit more room for it to come out the other end. And there we have it. Thanks for watching.